We're about to come back to land. Such a meaningful flight. When I was young, I didn't have a mentor. It took me a long time until I hit 37 to figure out my true passion. Then I left.
It's the kind of silence that speaks volumes. For years, one of Boeing's most loyal customers stood by quietly, even as missed deadlines and broken promises piled up. But now, that silence is shattered, and what followed has sent shockwaves through the aviation world. Cathay Pacific, once a flagship partner in Boeing's widebody ambitions, just made a move that no one saw coming. It's bold, it's deliberate, and it might be the moment that tips the balance in a decades-long rivalry between two aerospace giants. What triggered this rare public rebuke? And more importantly, what does it signal about the future of one of the most powerful alliances in aviation history? This is not just another airline update. It's a calculated shift with global implications. Boeing's mounting delivery delays. Boeing's 707X program, once heralded as the next generation of efficient, long-haul wide-body aircraft, has become a case study in delays and missed expectations. Originally slated to enter service in 2020, the 77X has now been postponed multiple times, with the latest estimates pushing its debut to at least 2027. These delays stem from a mix of technical issues, certification challenges, and internal production setbacks, severely disrupting airline fleet renewal plans and straining Boeing's credibility in the market. Leading global carriers have not held back in their criticism. Emirates, one of Boeing's largest 777X customers, has voiced repeated frustration over the timeline setbacks, with President Tim Clark publicly calling for accountability. Singapore Airlines and Qatar Airways, two other high-profile customers, have similarly raised concerns, emphasizing the operational and financial difficulties caused by Boeing's inability to meet delivery schedules. These comments from top-tier carriers have added significant pressure on Boeing's management. Dissatisfaction from Lufthansa, one of Europe's major airlines and an early adopter of the 777X, has mirrored sentiments from many in the industry. The airline has cast doubt on whether Boeing could even meet the amended timelines, which speaks to the broader skepticism observed in the industry. Lufthansa's railing against Boeing reflects an increasing number of such voices from legacy carriers that have built schedules, marketing schemes, and strategic fleet plans around the promised arrival of the 777X, now plunged into uncertainty due to Boeing's own impertinences. It is this very cocktail of delays and high-profile disparagements that very much drove a wedge between Boeing and trustworthiness in delivery. From what was once seen as a stalwart of reliability within the global aviation industry, Boeing is now viewed by many as one trying hard to regain its lost glory. For that very reason, airlines that were once Boeing's loyalists for the technological brilliance and timely delivery are now increasingly hedging their bets, if not totally switching sides. This has finally given Airbus a big edge over Boeing. It now marks the turning point for Boeing globally, with far-reaching implications for its status in commercial aviation. But just when it seemed Boeing had weathered the worst of the backlash, one of its quietest allies finally broke its silence, and what followed was anything but subtle. Cathay's public criticism. For years, Cathay Pacific maintained a quiet, reserved stance as Boeing's 777X program faced delay after delay. Unlike other major carriers that were vocal about their dissatisfaction, Cathay chose a more patient approach, perhaps out of optimism that the issues would resolve or respect for a long-standing partnership. Despite being directly affected by the setbacks, the airline withheld public criticism, even as the delivery schedule extended well beyond its original timeline. That silence broke in 2024 when Cathay Pacific, through its Chief Operations and Service Delivery Officer Alex McGowan, publicly called the delays a disappointment. This was a significant moment, not just for Boeing, but for the aviation industry, as it marked the first time one of Boeing's most loyal and historically supportive clients voiced dissatisfaction. The comment didn't come from a mid-level representative. It was a high-level, deliberate message aimed squarely at holding Boeing accountable. This change in communication strategy has signified a deeper change within Cathay Pacific. The airline was no longer prepared to absorb the operational and financial disruption caused by a delayed aircraft. Instead, it had begun making a loud noise both to the market and Boeing, indicating that patience had run out. Publicizing its frustrations indicated the company had come to terms with a shift in its approach to vendor relationships from legacy loyalty to performance. Cathay, therefore, was not merely making passing comments, but had made a rather strong strategic shift on how the airline would now conduct partnerships. Thus, Cathay's pronouncement was clearly a message that contracts must be kept because relationships with providers would be re-evaluated under non-compliance with expectations as far as contractual obligations were concerned. This much-bargained stance can ultimately modify future procurement decisions for aircraft, particularly in respect to collaboration with Boeing, and indeed across the world of competitive aviation. Costly consequences. As Boeing's delays with the 737X program stretched into years, Cathay Pacific found itself facing a serious operational dilemma. The airline had planned its long-term fleet strategy around the timely arrival of the 737X, which was supposed to replace aging widebody jets and support high-demand routes across Asia and beyond. But with delivery timelines now pushed to 2027 at the earliest, Cathay was forced to pivot. Rather than risk losing competitiveness or capacity on key routes, the airline committed to a massive, multi-billion-dollar retrofit initiative targeting its fleet of Boeing 777-300ER aircraft. This decision reflects not just a short-term solution, but a major financial undertaking that was made out of operational necessity rather than strategic ambition. Central to this retrofit strategy is the introduction of the Aria Suite, a completely redesigned business-class experience aimed at elevating passenger comfort and competing with next-generation cabins offered by rival airlines. The Aria Suite features fully enclosed privacy doors, larger seat dimensions, and an updated in-flight entertainment system, aligning Cathay's older aircraft with the premium offerings of modern jets. These upgrades were not originally planned for the 787-300ER fleet on this scale, but became essential in light of Boeing's inability to deliver new aircraft on schedule. The investment serves a dual purpose, bridging the gap until newer aircraft arrive, and ensuring Cathay remains a top-tier choice for business travelers accustomed to luxury and privacy. The refurbishment program is not only confined to business class, but Cathay is also overhauling its premium economy and economy cabins of the 777-300ERs to meet more current standards of passenger comfort and efficiency. Premium economy will now have improved seat size and legroom, whereas economy class will see new ergonomic seating, advanced entertainment systems, and an updated look in the cabin. These improvements are being done while competing with other international carriers that are delivering newer, more fuel-efficient aircraft with a modern ambiance. It's really important for Cathay to update the customer experience on its legacy aircraft, not just to ensure clients are retained, but also to help sustain the premium charge on routes that are high in demand. In short, this is a retrofitting initiative that is expensive and, without doubt, wisely considered in the context of the 777X delays Boeing. It is, on the one hand, a grand capital expenditure, yet it illustrates Cathay's tenacity to make things move while waiting for the new birds. Instead of cutting frequencies, downgrading service levels, or losing passenger revenue to competitors, this airline reinvested in its existing fleet to maintain brand image and route reliability. In turning a supplier's failure into an opportunity for modernization, Cathay has certainly done so under less than ideal circumstances. Of course, this reactive expenditure would have been avoided if the aircraft maker had kept its delivery promises, underscoring some severe business conditions from the company's repeated failures. Cathay's route capacity struggle. The Hong Kong-Taipei route has long been recognized as one of the most heavily trafficked international air corridors in the world. Its strategic importance lies not only in connecting two major economic hubs in East Asia, but also in serving as a crucial link for business travelers, tourists, and regional transfers. Even during global downturns in travel, this route has demonstrated resilience, bouncing back rapidly and frequently, topping global rankings in terms of frequency and passenger volume. In 2024 alone, the route offered approximately 6.8 million seats, a staggering figure that is projected to climb to nearly 10 million by 2025 if current trends persist. This consistent demand places enormous pressure on carriers operating in the corridor to maintain high service frequency and reliability. Cathay Pacific is one of the dominant players on this route, operating up to 13 daily flights between Hong Kong and Taipei. This high-frequency schedule requires a steady and reliable flow of wide-body aircraft to ensure operational stability and meet market demand. However, with the ongoing delays in Boeing's 707X program, the airline has been left grappling with a shortfall in available long-haul aircraft that would otherwise be deployed not just on global routes, but also to reinforce capacity on regional high-demand corridors. The aging aircraft currently in service are increasingly expensive to maintain and less fuel efficient, which not only inflates costs, but also limits Cathay's ability to compete effectively in a market where efficiency and passenger experience are critical differentiators. Compounding these difficulties is an increasing demand on the Hong Kong-Taipei route. Cathay finds itself under the pressure of increased utilization or a new aircraft fleet to absorb that level of growth, with projections showing that demand could approach 10 million annual seat capacity. Matters are made worse for it by continuous delivery delays of aircraft from Boeing and its inability to acquire any acceptable alternatives, keeping it afloat only by a thread. If the weak capacity tendency persists, it simply means lost revenues, lost share of the market, and diminished customer loyalty, especially since airline competitors in the region are already ramping up operations, commissioning next-generation aircraft with names like Airbus. But besides the Taipei route, the capacity crisis casts light on a bigger issue across Cathay's worldwide operations. Also, the airline has to fly its aircraft long-haul to North America, Europe, and Australia, resource-intensive routes in fleet utilization. This shortage of new aircraft places Cathay in difficult dilemmas concerning route prioritization, which could adversely affect its growth prospects or ability to maintain its position in key markets. In such a fiercely competitive Asian playground for aviation, where size and efficiency rule, delay in the delivery of new aircraft could threaten Cathay's strategic flexibility and apply greater pressure on its regional dominance. Boeing-Cathay partnership collapse. Cathay Pacific's relationship with Boeing stands as one of the most enduring partnerships in commercial aviation, dating back to 1971, when the airline took delivery of its first Boeing 707-320B. Over the decades, Cathay built a fleet identity around Boeing's wide-body aircraft, from the game-changing 747s that defined its long-haul expansion to the 777s that remain central to its operations. This multi-decade alliance extended beyond simple transactions. It was a strategic collaboration built on mutual trust, shared vision, and sustained growth. Historically, Cathay was not just a loyal Boeing customer, but a strategic partner. It consistently placed large orders for Boeing's long-range passenger and freighter aircraft, helping establish one of the largest all-Boeing cargo fleets in Asia by the mid-2000s. In return, the airline expected timely deliveries, prioritized production slots, and continued support through market cycles. But in recent years, that mutual confidence has started to erode, most notably due to Boeing's struggles to deliver the next-generation 777X. Repeated delays in the 777X program have been especially damaging. Initially slated for entry into service in 2020, the aircraft has now seen multiple deferrals. According to Cathay Pacific's 2024 full-year financial report, the airline has further postponed its 707-9 delivery timeline to 2027, delaying not only the aircraft's integration, but also the debut of its much-anticipated new first-class suites. These delays have forced Cathay to keep aging aircraft in service longer than intended, and invest heavily in retrofits that were not part of its original fleet strategy. The rupture was accentuated by Boeing's inability to offer a timely and feasible solution for freighter aircraft. To counter this, Cathay placed an order for Airbus A350F freighters, dramatic departure from tradition, and a symbolic turning point in the Boeing Cathay story. This move was more than tactical, was a structural change to its procurement philosophy, wherein performance and reliability trump legacy partnerships. The unraveling of this once robust alliance reflects not just one lost customer, but a period of transition within the larger global aviation landscape, whereby airlines are less willing to tolerate uncertain promises and more inclined to hold out for operational certainty. Cathay Pacific's swing to Airbus is not only a remedy for Boeing's shunning, but also occasions questioning of the very premise that loyalty will secure preferential treatment and sustainable performance. Cathay isn't just diversifying, it's redeveloping its supplier relationships. This shift indicates a new era where the airline will place greater importance on agility, schedule reliability, and sustainability. The emotional implications of leaving a partner after 50 years weigh heavily, but in the end, the strategic call to act decisively prevailed. But just as one door closed on decades of loyalty, another opened, with a move that left industry insiders doing a double-take. The $11 billion A330neo deal. In a move that underscores a significant realignment of its fleet strategy, Cathay Pacific placed a firm order worth approximately $11 billion for 30 Airbus A330-900 aircraft, with options for an additional 30 units. This massive investment marks a decisive step away from Boeing at a time when the airline is seeking stability and reliability in its future widebody fleet. The A330neo deal not only reflects Cathay's growing confidence in Airbus as a supplier, but also signals to the industry that the airline is willing to shift loyalty if long-standing expectations are not met. For Airbus, the order represents a major commercial victory, particularly given the historical dominance Boeing has enjoyed with Cathay's widebody fleet. The A330-900s are intended to replace the airline's aging fleet of A330-300s, which have been mainstays of Cathay's medium and long-haul routes for years. These older aircraft, while reliable, are becoming less efficient and more expensive to operate compared to newer models. The A330neo offers significant improvements in fuel efficiency, range, and passenger comfort, making it a fitting successor. With these new aircraft, Cathay aims to enhance operational efficiency and reduce emissions, while also offering a refreshed onboard experience to passengers. The move reflects a forward-looking strategy focused on sustainability, competitiveness, and aligning with global aviation trends, favoring more modern, fuel-efficient jets. Knowing the delivery timeline is essential to the deal. Airbus has promised to hand over all 30 firm orders by the end of 2031, contrasting sharply with the continued delays of the 77X program by Boeing. In view of having gone through many years of uncertainty with Boeing, Cathay's faith in Airbus's ability to keep to schedules is central to this deal. Premiums for this trust would be a distinct advantage for Cathay in the current airline industry environment, where fleet planning hinges on predictable supply chains and timely delivery forecasts. This provides assurance for the airline in planning for capacity growth, route expansion, and passenger demand, all vital considerations for retaining competitive advantages with regard to other carriers in Asia and worldwide. In the end, this could be viewed as more than a fleet renewal. It may very well lay the foundation for the restructuring of Cathay's aircraft acquisition plan into the future. With this large investment in wide-bodies with Airbus, the airline is also perhaps signaling a coming shift to a more balanced or even Airbus-heavy fleet composition. This risk diversification ought to give Cathay better bargaining power while negotiating any future contracts. For Airbus, this allows it the opportunity to solidify its growing role as Cathay's primary supplier for wide-body solutions, which can lay the groundwork for more orders, including possible acquisitions of A350 variants in the coming years. The freighter surprise. Cathay Pacific's recent freighter order marks one of the most unexpected yet telling moves in the ongoing shake-up of its relationship with Boeing, in a decision that sent shockwaves through the aviation industry. the airline placed an order for 6 Airbus A350F freighters with options for 20 additional units. This is a strategic pivot with far-reaching implications. For decades, Cathay has operated an all-Boeing cargo fleet, primarily composed of 747-400 and 747-8 freighters. These aircraft have formed the backbone of its cargo operations, which are crucial not only to Cathay's profitability, but also to Hong Kong's status as a global logistics hub. Choosing to diversify away from Boeing in such a critical fleet segment marks a significant break from tradition and a pointed vote of confidence in Airbus. The significance of this move lies not only in the aircraft selected, but also in what it represents, a clear departure from expectations. Given Cathay's historical dependence on Boeing for its freighter needs, many anticipated the airline would opt for the upcoming 77X freighter variant. This would have ensured fleet commonality, simplified training requirements for cargo pilots, and reduced operational complexity. However, Cathay's choice to bypass Boeing and instead commit to Airbus for the next generation of cargo aircraft strongly suggests a loss of trust. Boeing's persistent delays and inability to provide firm timelines for the 777X, not only in its passenger version but also in its cargo variant, likely played a central role in Cathay's decision to look elsewhere. The A350F obviously many advantages that fall perfectly in line with Cathay Pacific's modernization and sustainability purposes. Freighter version of A350 was designed on the same basis as A350 passenger aircraft, and because of that, it has the promise of decreasing emissions of up to 40% or more, while simultaneously conserving at least 20% of the fuel as compared to older cargoers like the 747s. These operational advantages mean substantial cost reductions for the entire aircraft lifecycle, a significant contribution to the world of air freight, presently on the rebound and evolving in its own way post-COVID. Essentially, the A350F is based on the International Civil Aviation Organization (CAO's) latest emission standards, which are going to be more focused now that the airlines are having a tough time complying with environmental regulations. In the case of Cathay, which has pledged aggressive sustainability targets, it is easy to see that their option for the A350F is indeed a rational, though more strategic one. Through choosing Airbus for its future cargo operations, Cathay has now sent a strong signal that the reliability and design for the future are now more important than historical ties. The modern design not only alleviates unduly exposure for the airline to delays and bottlenecks from a single manufacturer, but it also puts a feather in the cap for Airbus's influence in areas once considered the Boeing bastion. Effectively, the A350F deal has widened the gulf between Cathay and Boeing, turning an operational decision into one granting strategic leverage. Narrowbody loyalty shift. Cathay Pacific's growing investment in Airbus's A320neo family marks a defining moment in the airline's narrowbody fleet evolution. The airline recently placed an order for 32 additional A320neo aircraft, bringing its total commitment to 64 units. This is a substantial fleet expansion and a bold reinforcement of Cathay's strategic preference for Airbus narrowbodies. While the A320 family has been a popular choice among global carriers, this move is particularly significant for Cathay, which has traditionally operated a more Boeing-heavy fleet across other categories. The scale and timing of the order highlight not only operational needs, but also a deeper shift in brand alignment and trust. These aircraft are primarily intended to serve Cathay's high-demand regional routes, particularly to and from mainland China, one of the most competitive and capacity-sensitive markets in the world. With city pairs like Hong Kong-Shanghai and Hong Kong-Beijing seeing increasing travel demand, the need for efficient and reliable narrowbody jets is more urgent than ever. The A320neo's improved range and fuel efficiency make it well suited for these routes, allowing Cathay to increase frequency, reduce operating costs, and improve environmental performance. This move also strengthens Cathay's presence in short-haul and mid-range markets, where schedule reliability and turnaround speed are critical. The decision to invest heavily in A320neo will only favor Cathay in terms of fleet modernization and operational efficiency. With quieter engines, lower fuel consumption, and lower carbon dioxide emissions, the A320neo is in sync with Cathay's initiatives towards sustainability and improving customer service. The operation of a single alternative modern narrowbody helps to minimize maintenance burdens, simplify pilot training, and reduce costs in the long run that would have come with running a mixed fleet. As we now see in the post-COVID airline world, one where resilience and cost control are key, the A320neo, by design, allows Cathay to remain nimble and competitive across its regional network. The most explanatory part of this order seems contrary to tell Boeing what it thinks of their narrowbody offerings, namely the 737 MAX. Although the MAX has slowly returned with various global carriers, the certification delay with the MAX 10 and the bad taste that remains from earlier incident management seem to have tipped Cathay towards avoiding this model altogether. In succumbing to A320neo again, Cathay has delivered a statement. Airbus is now the reliable player in the narrowbody space. That sort of distancing from Boeing is not just about an immediate strategy. It may end up changing Cathay's long-term mentality in fleet planning if the delivery reliability and product innovation of Airbus keep following the upward trajectory. Strategic diversification. Cathay Pacific's recent aircraft orders signal a broader, deliberate strategy of supplier diversification, a shift that appears to be aimed squarely at reducing the airline's historic over-reliance on Boeing. After decades of leaning heavily on the American manufacturer for its widebody and cargo fleet, Cathay is now expanding its partnerships with Airbus in both the passenger and freighter categories. This strategic recalibration is not merely a reaction to the current delays plaguing Boeing 737X and 737 MAX programs. It reflects a long-term vision focused on insulating the airline from future risks associated with supply chain bottlenecks and manufacturer-specific disruptions. By balancing its procurement between multiple suppliers, Cathay gains more leverage and stability in managing future fleet developments. One of the key advantages of this diversified approach is enhanced flexibility in fleet deployment and maintenance operations. A mixed fleet allows Cathay to better match aircraft types to route demands, offering greater scheduling agility and optimizing seat capacity on a per-flight basis. From an operational standpoint, it also reduces vulnerability to technical grounding or regulatory issues that may affect a specific manufacturer's aircraft. For example, if a particular Boeing model faces a grounding, Cathay could rely on its Airbus fleet to fill in the gaps and maintain service continuity. This multi-vendor approach strengthens the airline's ability to adapt to both short-term challenges and long-term shifts in travel demand. Airbus has consistently maintained a record of delivering aircraft in a timely manner, an added advantage to the other benefits gained by Cathay's policy on diversification. Unlike Boeing's widely publicized troubles, from certification issues to production halts, Airbus has maintained a fairly constant delivery pace with regard to both widebody and narrowbody aircraft. For these aspects, the reliability becomes even more important as an airline undertakes preparations for route expansions, seasonal capacity increases, or aircraft retirements. For Cathay, a dependable delivery partner means smoother fleet transitions and scarce hours of disruption in network planning. It also creates more confidence in shareholders, employees, and passengers trapped in an evolving but stable and scalable operation. Supplier diversification for Cathay is an innovative move for furthering operational resilience and keeping the airline in the game long-term. In the current environment of global aviation, where economic instability, regulatory changes, and supply chain delays have become the norm, reliance on a single manufacturer for everything becomes quite risky. Cathay nurtures a future-proof structural safety net, ensuring that one day it stands high above disruption by investing in a balanced fleet that comprises both Airbus and Boeing aircraft. The above strategy offers an improved negotiating position while procuring and reflects the emerging procurement philosophy where flexibility, reliability, and performance take precedence over legacy loyalties. But while Cathay is playing the long game with strategic moves, Boeing is now cornered, and what it does next could determine the fate of more than just one partnership. Boeing's damage control dilemma. Boeing finds itself at a critical crossroads, with few remaining options to salvage its relationship with longtime customers like Cathay Pacific. Central to any recovery effort is the company's ability to finally meet its revised 2027 delivery timeline for the long-delayed 707X. Boeing is operating on borrowed time and goodwill. If it fails once again to deliver by the promised date, the consequences could be severe, not just in lost sales, but in permanently eroding customer trust. The 737X program was once positioned as Boeing's answer to Airbus's A350 family, but years of missed targets have severely damaged its credibility. Cathay and other airlines have built long-term network strategies and fleet renewal plans around this aircraft, and another delay could push more carriers into the Airbus camp permanently. Beyond delivery timelines, Boeing must confront a deeper, systemic issue: its internal culture. Over the past decade, the company has faced criticism for prioritizing cost-cutting and shareholder returns over engineering excellence and safety concerns that were amplified following the 737 MAX crisis. To regain the trust of global airlines, Boeing must demonstrate a cultural reset that places technical reliability, transparent communication, and product integrity at the center of its operations. This isn't merely a marketing exercise. It requires structural changes in leadership priorities, accountability measures, and employee empowerment, especially within its engineering and quality assurance departments. Only by addressing these internal flaws can Boeing hope to repair its tarnished reputation and ensure its future aircraft programs are delivered without compromise. Boeing should consider another bold yet possibly imperative measure: making financial reparations to the customers it hurt. Cathay Pacific, for example. They have been forced to spend billions retrofitting their old 777-300 ERs as a temporary stopgap due to the 737X delays, expenditure they would not have incurred or anticipated when placing the original order. If Boeing were to even consider offsetting a portion of the costs of these retrofits or providing other forms of compensation, it could be interpreted as a real sign that Boeing was beginning to take responsibility for the disruption it has caused. Such a move might sound expensive in theory, but maintaining customer relationships and keeping them from drifting further into the arms of Airbus might justify the expense in the long run. This would resonate with Cathay, but would also be a message to the other airlines affected that Boeing is intent on rebuilding the issue of trust. This is upholding the remaining loyalty in Boeing's favor, that which translates into tangible actions and cultural forwardness. Cathay Pacific's embracing Airbus is a thunderous wake-up call, though not an irreversible break. Should Boeing react? Building trust means delivering on promises, availing honest communication regarding delays or risks, and effecting transformative measures in articulate terms in as far as long-term customer partnerships are concerned. It will lose market share faster with no signs of apology regarding trust, particularly in a wide-body space where Airbus has increasingly grown against it. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit the like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more updates on the aviation world's biggest moves. Got more questions or predictions about Boeing's future? Let us know below. And before you go, click the next video on your screen to keep flying with us. Thanks for watching.